Awesome. So like she said, I am Musetti, and I'll be teaching y'all how to recycle right here in Nashville. Big question, why recycle? 80% of our waste here in Nashville and Davidson County is going to a landfill. And you can see these black bars here are trash, or landfill, and the blue bars are recycling. And this is over the last 5 fiscal years. So as you can see, our landfill is super high. It's been going up. Makes sense. If we're having population growth here in the county, we can expect that. But our recycling numbers are very low, dropping or remaining stagnant. And that's an issue. So landfills have some big economic impacts. And I don't know if you all heard, but Middle Point, which is where over half of our waste goes, was expected to reach full capacity within the next decade. Recently, they have told us there's some issues going on. They're expecting to close to Nashville and Davidson County, any county that's not Rutherford County, as soon as January 2023.
Wow.
With that, we have 2 other landfills that are nearish to us. But these capacity numbers are based on our current capacity. So with half of our waste going to Middle Point, if all of that is diverted, Cedar Ridge and West Camden, their capacity or their lifespan will decrease. And as we have to go further and further away to take our trash, costs will go up. So one of the reasons right now why we landfill so much is because land is very cheap here in the Southeast. California has a great recycling system, New York does, because they don't have the land to keep landfilling. Whereas here in the Southeast, there is land, there is ability to do that. But as we continue to reach capacity, it's going to become expensive to landfill. Also, environmentally, landfills are not great. They are the 3rd largest source of human-related methane emissions, and while they are regulated pretty heavily by the EPA, there is still some possible contamination due to leachate or trash juice. So when water from the air, when it rains, when that interacts with the trash, it can cause contamination to seep into the groundwater, and that can cause some issues as well. But they are very closely monitored. They are not like dumps as they used to be. They do have all this lining. They are very well engineered, but there is still that chance. Socially, landfills are in someone's backyard. So 2 slides ago, we saw Middle Point landfill. That's where the majority of our waste here in Davidson County is going. That's over in Murfreesboro. If you go to the area, you can see the landfill, you can smell the landfill. There's noise and infrastructure abuse going to and from the landfill. Y'all have heard of NIMBY, not in my backyard. Landfills are in someone's backyard. Really important to remember that. So, what can we do instead? I will say, recycling is what we're talking about today. That is middle towards the bottom. So these words, upstream, midstream, downstream, last resort, the higher up we go on this zero waste hierarchy, the better they are for the environment. So our best options are upstream management. Managing the waste before it's created. So doing things like rethinking, redesigning, refusing the waste. Best solution. Then once the waste is already out there, once we already have those materials, midstream management. So managing that waste, prolonging the lifespan of it. We can do that through reuse or repair. Downstream is when we've already decided it's a waste and it's no longer a resource. That is where recycling and composting come in. Recycling and composting do not decrease or impact the amount of material out there. That material is already created. That material is already there. Most materials can be recycled more than once or more than a few times. They will go to a landfill at some point. So it's really important that we start rethinking, redesigning, refusing, reducing, reusing, all the other R's that come before recycling. Here's a couple different ways to do that. So this up here in the top, your top right corner, the reduce, these are peeled oranges in a plastic container. Nature makes a container for it. There is no need to copy. I am a big fan of potato soup. I go to my local Kroger. The potatoes are individually wrapped in plastic. There is no need for that. So trying to refuse, reduce, work with legislation, try to manage that upstream to get rid of that waste. Reusing, prolonging the life. No need to throw out your sock when there's a hole in it. You can sew it up. You can use it as sock puppets. You can use it as wraps. There are many other options besides landfilling. But then once we decide we can't do anything else with it, that is where recycling comes in.
Hey Rachel, did
Yes.
it get worse during COVID because people didn't want to touch stuff? It seems like all of a sudden things were wrapped more.
Yeah, I'm not sure if packaging got worse during COVID, but I know that plastic bags, for example, got a lot worse because people weren't allowed to bring their reusable grocery bags into stores.
Right.
A couple coffee shops like Starbucks, local coffee shops, those will give you a lot of times discounts if you bring your own bottle or you bring your own thermos because they're not paying for the cup then. That also took a pause. Most of those are no longer. You can start bringing your reusables in. Greenpeace and a bunch of medical practitioners worldwide released a statement back in like April 2020 saying reusables are safe, and it's continued. So as long as you're taking care of your reusables, cleaning them correctly, it's okay to keep using reusables in the pandemic. But with all of that in mind, Nashville and Davidson County did create a zero waste master plan that was approved by council, adopted locally, and now in place. And that aims to divert 90% of waste from landfills over the next 30 years. And big parts of that are increasing recycling, food waste reduction, recovery, and composting programs throughout Davidson County, adopting recycling and recovery programs for Nashville's growing construction demolition waste, and like we're doing today, strengthening public education and outreach programs. So really talking about it. So what is recycling? So recycling is the process of collecting and processing materials that would otherwise be thrown away as trash and turning them into new products. So you can see this is the traditional cycle. We start with a natural resource, it's a raw material, we manufacture it, make it into a good, and throw it out. Recycling helps close that loop. So recycling, instead of putting it to a landfill and starting the process over again, it is taking here and putting back into the manufacturer. And because of that, when recycling is done correctly, or when you recycle right, there are some really great perks to recycling. So take an aluminum can, for example. Recycling a single aluminum can saves enough energy to run a TV set for 3 hours. It's infinitely recyclable, which is not true of a lot of different materials. Aluminum cans, steel cans, those are infinitely recyclable. And my favorite, they can be recycled, remanufactured, new liquid can be put in it and back on your shelf in a 2-month period. So just 60 days, that whole process can happen. And making cans from recycled aluminum cuts your air pollution down by about 95%. You're not extracting those materials. It takes 20 times less the amount of energy because you're not extracting the new materials. It's a lot cheaper and it creates a lot more jobs. So for every, I think 150 tons of recycled material, two jobs are created. Not true with landfilling because you're not continuously filling that process. You're just one step, it's done, it's linear, it's not a circular economy.
So we need to drink more beer so we can recycle.
I will not tell you not to drink more beer. So that brings us to what can be recycled. Would like to say, I'm with Metro Government of Davidson County, talking about Davidson County here today. So here is Davidson County. We have 2 different tax brackets. So with that, we have the Urban Services District and the General Services District. So everyone in the county gets certain services. If you live in the Urban Services District closer to downtown, then you have recycling, trash, and street lights at no additional cost. That changes. But in order to make recycling more equitable throughout the county, there are 14 drop-off locations for recycling, scattered throughout the county, and 4 convenience centers. So those 4 convenience centers take for traditional recycling, as well as a few other materials that we'll talk about later. Fun fact, even if you have curbside recycling, the recycling drop-offs have more materials that can be recycled there than in your curbside. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So here's your curbside. What can you recycle? So the first category is paper and cartons. So that includes things like milk cartons, soup cartons, newspaper, magazines, all of that can be recycled. You can recycle it with the cap on your milk carton, if that is your question.
Yes, that was my question.
Yeah.
So you rinse it out and you crush it and you put the cap back on.
Yeah, you can crush it if you would like. You don't have to, but clean, empty, dry is a good rule to follow.
Okay.
Cardboard, so that's things like your cereal boxes, your Amazon boxes, your toilet paper, paper towel rolls, tubes can all be recycled. Food
Can
and
I ask
drink.
you a question about the boxes?
Yeah.
If my Amazon box comes with 5 plastic stickers on it, you know, mailing labels and stuff, is it better to peel that stuff off? Because that's not cardboard.
So I'm gonna lump your question in with like
Okay,
pasta boxes. You know how they have like a little see-through screen?
yeah,
So all of that paper mills can process because they'll kind of moisten the paper and it'll become kind of sticky. And those plastic components or those stickers
we'll separate.
will separate. So they're okay to leave on, always better to take it off, but it's not going to damage the process, it's not going to hurt the process to leave them on.
Sorry to hear
Pizza boxes?
that.
Pizza boxes, so if they're greasy, no, but you can always take the top off your pizza box because that is very unlikely to have grease on it and recycle that. But the other ones you can take to a convenience center for composting, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then plastics, the only plastics we take in Nashville and Davidson County are plastic bottles, jars, and jugs. If you cannot call a product a bottle, jar, or jug, it is not recyclable. Then recycling at our drop-off locations, so those 14 locations I told y'all about. You can take the same materials plus glass, but unlike your curbside collection, they cannot be jumbled together. You have to put them into these 4 different categories. So the first category is paper and cartons, same thing. Cardboard, same thing. If you're at a convenience center or recycling drop-off site and the cardboard is full, especially around the winter holidays, it is okay to put that cardboard in the paper container. The reason it is separated is because cardboard is worth a lot more. So people want the cardboard more than they want the paper, but paper mills will take cardboard, so it is okay. Then at the recycling drop-off sites, food and drink cans and plastic bottles, jars, and jugs are lumped together into one container. And there is an entirely separate container for glass. And that glass is only glass bottles and jars. So not glass mirrors, not glasses, not drinking glasses, just glass bottles and jars.
You get these kind of paper envelopes and then they're lined with the bubble wrap. That is
Trash.
trash. I hate those.
It breaks my heart when we take our recycling to those types of bins. We have a center that's just not too far from our place, and it breaks my heart to see people throwing the type of glass that you mentioned that's not being recycled. Does that contaminate that load to the extent that they can't do anything with it? What happens when there's a bunch of crap in there that shouldn't be in there?
So it'll be taken to the glass mill. It'll be taken where it will be potentially purchased. They have the ability to turn it down and reject it. More likely than not, it'll be okay because based on the quantity, like the volume, they're not going to be a bunch of drinking glasses compared to like wine glasses or pasta sauce jars. So it should be okay, but contamination does definitely occur in those.
Can you leave the caps on the glass bottles?
Yeah, so all of these you can leave your caps on except for glass. So glass, take that metal, it's usually metal. If it's more than 2 inches, you can recycle that in the food and drink cans or in scrap metal. If it's small, like a wine glass, the screw-on ones, those can't be recycled. So follow the 2-inch rule.
So like the laundry jug containers and things, those you can leave the caps on?
So if you put your cap on any of the plastic bottles, jars, and jugs, that's fine. If you take your cap off and throw it in the recycling, the machine won't be able to sort that, you'll see in a minute. So it'll wind up as residue and it'll go in the trash. But if it's on the actual material, that's okay, because it's looking for that material, it's not looking for the cap. But then it can be pelletized, if you leave it on.
Yeah, and the question that, I know it's not recyclable because I control that, but the shells, the things that the fruit comes in, like strawberries and blueberries, we have a lot of that. That has to go in the trash,
Yes.
all of that?
Don't buy it. As much as I try, I mean, sometimes you have to, but
Yeah.
like I do not buy lettuce in those containers. I'm just not going to do it.
Well, not lettuce, but strawberries, blueberries, raspberries.
It's so tough. I know.
There's no
Oh,
other way
the
to buy them.
produce place, they put it in compostable cardboard
I mean, it's still
Who
got
does?
plastic containers,
Produce
but it's
place.
not quite as much.
on Mercy Road.
Their strawberries are in those little compostable containers. They do have some plastic, but
Where's that?
Produce place?
it's an old-fashioned grocery store. It's on Murphy Drive when you go down. You turn on Murphy right after you go across 440, going down West End.
About 40
Go underneath
seconds.
the trestle,
Oh, I know.
and it's about 2 or 3 blocks on the right. It's a little old-fashioned grocery store, but they try to stock local, and you can buy fruit individually. You don't have to buy it in one of those horrible containers. And they do have some things that come in the
I
plastic.
mean, even eggs, they put them in plastic. Why? Just only buy the cardboard ones.
Yeah.
So do you take your own little container?
No.
You have the blueberries?
They bring it out in a little, like the farmer's markets do, usually. It's a little cardboard that can be compostable. Yeah.
There must be a lot of those. Well, you know, pies come in them, you know, the aluminum thing with the pie in it, and it's in one of those plastic things, the lid.
Right.
Cakes,
Yeah.
I mean, cookies.
Is the plastic though, I thought it was only number 1.
No. It's bottles, jars, and jugs.
But on the plastics, it's not just 1 through 3.
3 is like PVC, like PVC pipe, not.
So what about the
like-
5, 6, and 7 plastics?
So I can say with certainty
Uh-huh,
that no 3 through 7 is recyclable in Davidson County.
right, that's what I'm asking about.
1s and 2s depends on the material, but all bottles, jars, and jugs will be recycled. But plastic cups are a number 1, and plastic bottles are a number 1. But it's different machinery to sort, and we don't have that machinery here in Davidson County. So it's only bottles, jars, and jugs, regardless of the number.
So like container, like hummus containers or those can't do that.
So
Oh my.
that's a tub.
Tub.
Yeah. So we'll see why in a second. But bottles, jars, jugs, just those 3.
Okay.
Some rules about recycling, which y'all have already kind of hit on. But these are the only materials. It's called wish cycling. It's an actual concept, an actual thing where you think it could be recycled. There's a chance you really want it to be recycled. You're like, this might kind of skip through the line. It could be a bench one day. It won't. When that happens, we have to pay to take it from your recycling to the facility, pay them to sort it, and then pay them to take it to a landfill. So it's costing taxpayers 3 times the amount of just taking it from your trash to the landfill. So it is much, much more expensive to wish cycle than to just throw something out. So when in doubt, throw it out. Recycling must be clean, empty, and dry. Peanut butter jars, find a dog, y'all. They will be your best friend. They will clean it for you. It'll be great.
Dog has a very long tongue.
I put things in my dishwasher on the top shelf to clean them. You can put some water in it, shake it up. It doesn't have to be pristine, but you don't want it to be heavier than it would be if it was empty. So that can really mess it up. And if you have like soda in a bottle, that'll get compacted in the truck, that'll burst, and that'll ruin that paper. So it's about how it'll affect the other items.
What about jugs and bottles of poison stuff like drain cleaner?
Yeah, so things like pesticides, drain cleaners, those are all hazardous waste. So those need to be taken to a convenience center. If it's empty, so like nail polish remover, acetone, that's a hazardous waste if the material is in it. If you have an empty jug that held a hazardous waste, by state law, that's okay to recycle because it's empty. If it's full, do not put it in the recycling if it hurts someone. Biggest issue we have with sorting recycling is them being in bags. You'll see in a second how it works. It's a process that involves people, machinery, and technology. And when it's in a bag, you cannot sort it. So that can damage the equipment, it can make everyone stop working, it can cost money, it can delay recycling. So make sure they're loose in the container.
Is that for paper bags? Is paper bags?
Yeah, no bags. Don't, like, some people will, for example, put their caps inside a plastic bottle, like a plastic bottle with caps. That affects the weight. It will not be sorted from the machinery. It won't be captured. It'll be trash. So So don't try and stuff things in, don't try and loosen them together. If you're recycling with a paper bag, empty the paper bag, but put the paper bag in. But don't leave anything bagged, don't put anything in another item, loosen the container.
Yeah,
You know, I've read that if you shred something, you could put that inside an envelope, the shredded paper inside a paper envelope, and then you can put that into the recycling. Are you
Paper,
in paper is
Possibly.
okay?
loose shredded paper should definitely not go in your bin. You can take it to a convenience center.
Oh.
But paper that might be okay is definitely not okay for plastics. But I can check with you on the paper because I'm not entirely sure about the envelope method.
But that's like if you, when you say shredded, like I take a piece and do it like this so that
I think she means when I was
No, I mean like shredded.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I always thought that
Yeah.
wasn't recyclable, and someone said, no, if you put it in a paper envelope, then it can go into the paper, but.
It might because it's convenient. So I will check about it and then I'll email.
Is
based on
that
it.
shredding, is that true of the bins at the convenience center? I'm not in urban services.
Yeah, so convenience centers and recycling drop-offs, it's
So-
totally okay to put your shredded paper in there. Not okay in your curbside cart, because those bins will go directly to a paper mill. So they won't
They're
be
already
sorted.
separate.
They're already sorted.
Okay.
So totally okay to do that at a convenience center.
Shredded paper is great for putting around slants. That's what I usually do, but.
You can also put shredded paper to Turnip Green Creative Reuse. They'll take it as packaging material.
You can also compost it.
How big does paper have to be? I mean, like if you put in just like a paper tea bag, is that ridiculous or?
Tea.
So paper tea bags
Are not
are
recyclable.
not recyclable.
Okay, compost.
You should, so the rule for paper, so like photographs aren't recyclable.
Right,
You have to be able to write on it, and you have to be able to rip it.
okay.
So tea bags, you can't write on with a pencil.
The cover, the plastic cover, the paper cover. Yeah, paper envelope.
I'm talking about the paper.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, I think about the tea bag itself. and I was like,
No, I'm just wondering how, if little pieces of
Yeah.
paper, it's okay to put in there as long as you're paper.
So like sticky notes, for example, stick those to a piece of paper, don't put them loose in the bin. I can't say with certainty myself that that would be recycled, but I can check on that for you.
Okay.
I use loose leaves, I never looked into it before.
How about receipts and small papers like that?
So receipts, technically recyclable. They have some very harmful chemicals in them.
yeah.
A lot of paper becomes things like toilet paper. So we really suggest you don't recycle receipts because you don't want those harmful chemicals wiping your bum. Food for thought. So,
Can I ask one?
Yeah.
What about, the little coffee pods? You know, they're supposedly recyclable if you take the coffee and dump it in the trash, but then it's got like a little papery cloth liner thing. Are they okay to put in the recyclable?
can you call them a bottle, jar, or jug?
Okay.
I know, very sad.
It's a wish,
It
okay?
is a wish.
I've
It is
been
a wish.
cleaning the things, I like dumping stuff in the trash and then swishing the water around
I know.
and pulling it out and like trying to do the right thing. Okay.
Use a
Yeah.
French press.
Very sad. So acceptable plastics, again, bottles, jars, and jugs, they are the most confusing. So here are the rules of what makes a bottle, jar, or jug. So they all have caps, and they all have a tapered neck. So here on the plastic bottles, no handle, small neck, and a screw on top. Plastic jars, wide neck, wide top. Plastic jugs, a handle, a tapered neck, and a cap. So the reason things like plastic cups, for example, don't fit into that program, even though they're number one, they don't have a tapered neck, their base is smaller than that top, right? So it has to go in at the top, and it has to have a cap. You can put that cap on, and that cap will be recycled.
Is there a size limitation? Cat litter is an example. Cat litter comes in a jug,
Mm-hmm.
but it's big.
Yes, that's okay.
That's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not a pail.
Not a pail, no cap. The biggest question we get is why can't we recycle more? This is the recycling facility that Nashville uses. It's called a MRF, Material Recovery Facility, MRF. So we contract with WM, formerly known as Waste Management. And we're gonna watch a video of how it actually works. But this is just an overall process. We found it's very hard to pause the video, so we like to go in and kind of explain it first. But this truck will come in, tip the materials, and then using machines, technology, and people, it'll get sorted, it'll get baled, and it'll get sold. So the reason why Nashville's program is so limited in what they will accept is because we work really closely with our recycling facility to see what's actually getting sold versus what they sort or what they have to put in the landfill later on. So we can say with confidence that your paper and cartons, your cardboard, your food and drink cans, and your plastic bottles, jars, and jugs are all actually being recycled. So the big thing that happened with China when they stopped accepting material, it hurt a lot, but it revealed a lot of the secrets of recycling. So people were paying to take trash in the recycled products because it was so cheap to recycle with China. But they weren't actually recycling it. It was going to a lot of third world countries. It was burdening other countries. It wasn't getting recycled, and now we know that. And now we're really examining what's going on in the recycling process, which is why materials are so much limited now than they were in the past. So let's see it in action. So right here, they're gonna get weighed, so we know exactly how much material is coming in. And then this truck will come up, and what you see behind it is called the tipping floor. Really simple. The truck tips the material out onto the floor, tipping floor. Here you're gonna see all that water, those materials were not clean, empty, and dry. That paper, maybe not recyclable now. This front loader here will take that and it'll put it onto the conveyor belt and start the process. It'll put it on the drum feeder. Drum feeder will kind of shake things loose so that it can be sorted so it's not as compacted. So you can see it's starting up here at the top. The first thing to be filtered out is going to be that cardboard. So that's using a cardboard screen. It's going to throw the cardboard over. And then people are going to go and they're going to try and pick out any of that contamination, mostly plastic bags, before it can damage the machinery. Then the same thing happens with paper. So cardboard that's not collected, paper, that's all going to exit first. It's not going to go through with the rest of the material. It's not going to get contaminated. After every sorting process, people sort by hand, trying to remove that extra contamination. Then everything will continue along the line. And the next thing that's going to be sorted out is those plastics. So we use an optical sorter. Oh, you can see the drum feeder, and this is all that shredded paper that can't be recycled because it's not being captured in that screen. So that's all of the contamination. But here's an optical sorter. It's a little laser that locates those plastic bottles and those plastic jars along the line and shoots them up. So it says, oh, there's one, sends a little airstream up. Oh, there's one, sends an airstream up and it's captured. Then everything continues along the process. Every other plastic, so those plastic jugs are sorted by hand. So laundry jugs, for example, you can get them clear and you can get them colored. Those are worth different amounts of money. Then we have the metals come up, so steel is being collected with magnet. Get that drum feeder, and then an eddy current to get your soda cans. So that's just a really powerful airstream that shoots those up, collects them all. Then you have those aluminum cans. Everything else, trash. This is going to be paid to be sent to the landfill now. A lot of plastic bags, a lot of plastic film, things that are not plastic bottles, jars, and jugs. Everything that's been sorted will now continue on a conveyor belt based on the waste stream that it is. So here's the plastics, you just saw the cardboard. That'll be baled, tied with a steel wire. Here you can see the baling process, and then it'll be sold to the different manufacturers that will buy it.
Rachel, do you have an approximate value of the recapture percentage But like the bulk that comes in, how much is actually, you know, recycled versus how much goes to landfill?
Yeah, so 28% of what you put in your cart is contamination. So 28% is not being recycled, so 72% of what we put in our carts is being recycled.
Actually better than I thought.
Yeah.
So we're at 72%. In 2020, it was about 50-50.
Oh.
So we're doing a lot better now. And a lot of that is because of the education around bottle jars and jugs, because we know that's what's actually being sold. So glass we talked about earlier, you didn't just see it in that process. Glass fibers can't be collected at curbside because when they break in your curbside bin, they damage the plastic, they damage the cardboard, and they damage the paper. So then those are no longer worth anything. Cardboard is one of the most valuable recyclable materials. People pay a lot of money for it, so we don't want to hurt that. We don't want to damage that. The glass will go right to a glass facility to be sold. So like I said, you just saw how recycling works. The reason we can't take more is because we don't have the machinery to sort it. So things like hoses and plastic bags, we get a lot of. Not sure the hoses, can kind of understand the plastic bag. But both of these can wrap around those screens. You may have seen it earlier, sorry. They have to shut that whole facility down and go out and cut it by hand. They don't have any other way to get it out. They shut it down quite a few times because of how many plastic bags are there. Like you saw before, that shredded paper, those caps, too small to be sorted by the machinery. Things like car parts, metal's recyclable. True. It is not recyclable in your curbside cart. It's recyclable with scrap metal, but not in your curbside cart. We don't have that material. So things like metal pots and pans, other kinds of metal, you can take to a convenience center for scrap metal recycling. You cannot put it in your curbside cart. It can damage the machinery.
And just ask a question about plastic bags, because, you know, the bags you get from Publix or whatever, you can take them back to the store, and they have plastic bag recycling. What do they go to a different system or something?
Yes. So the way that a lot of that's proprietary information. But the way in theory that works is because Publix has trucks go and drop off their produce and whatnot, they're sending that empty truck back to the manufacturer anyway to pick up more goods. So they'll load up that truck with all those plastic bags they collected and bring them back, and they're able to be reused and recycled.
How do they recycle the plastic bag?
That is proprietary information.
Oh.
So in theory, that's how the program works, but there's not a lot of information of once it gets to the facility, what happens. So we recommend reducing, not getting that plastic bag in the first place.
I asked at Kroger once if they actually recycled the bag, or was it a way of getting people to come there? And they said, oh no, bring them, because we get a bonus the more bags we send back. So they must be reusing them.
Yeah, it's polyethylene and polypropylene film, and they can recycle that in a different way.
Yeah, so there's technology to do it. We can't guarantee it's going to be done, is the issue. So Kroger, for example, I live in East Nashville. They have a trash can, and they have the plastic bag side by side, very little labeling. People are throwing out the banana peels, throwing out drinks. Those plastic bags aren't going to be clean, they're not going to be great, so we can't guarantee they're going to actually do anything with all those dirty bags. So I'm sure there are programs that actually do recycle. I know there are film recyclers in Nashville, for example. We don't know how it's getting done. That's the issue. So also some materials, when I talk about glass, we talk about pizza boxes, they can lower the value of other good materials. So we don't want those. Don't put them in your recycling. We don't want the recycling to get rejected because of those materials. So yeah.
Is the ranger here? Is the ranger Okay. Yeah, I need some help with the ranger.
I can text
Yes.
Steve Ward.
So I get like my bird seed, it's in like a big, it looks like a cardboard bag, there's no plastic on it, it's just like a large bag that's like heavy cardboard, is that okay? Like, I mean, heavy paper, like.
So that's, the outside of the bag, for example, isn't like a paper, right? It's like that waxy material.
No, it's paper.
If it's completely paper, then yeah. But a lot of like kitty litter, for example, like when you look in the bag, that's
Yeah, no.
brown, but the outside is like that waxy plastic, so they can't sort that.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, what about, oh, my goodness.
And when you have the cardboard, like a soda package, you know, quick, what do you call it, a case of soda, and they have it wrapped in plastic, you gotta take the plastic off, and you can recycle the cardboard, and then you can put generally, I think you can put the film in the film, with the film.
Yeah, Nashville doesn't run the film recycling, so I
Right.
don't know about it, but yes.
But in any case, you gotta separate it, you can't just put that in with the film on.
Yes.
What about tissue paper, like for wrapping packages? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Now, here you show paper and cartons are recycled into paper and those cardboard and egg cartons, are those recyclable, the cardboard eggs, so they can just kind of keep going through the process?
A couple times, yeah. They're not infinitely recyclable. But they can go through it a couple times, and like your magazines, your paper, those will become other things. But it's not like not like your grandkids one day will be recycling that exact same.
Right,
Yeah.
but I mean, if they're made out of recycled material, I know the paper is, but I know a lot of recycled plastic can't be recycled again.
Correct, yeah.
The paper that's been recycled can be recycled
Yes,
again.
yeah.
Well, and the paper is excellent for compost.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the tissue paper, if it's glitter, trash it. If it's
They
just
need
like
to ban glitter, period. Glitter's
Yeah.
just-
if it's just like a blue tissue paper, no glitter, no sparkles, nothing, you can take that to a convenience center and compost it. But it's not thick enough to be recycled.
Okay.
They find glitter.
I was just gonna say, a lot of things say recyclable. And like I get these food cartons that are like with the meals in them, like Every Clay and Low Fresh and everything. And then they got this liner in it, it says it's recyclable, and it's paper with little paper honeycomb inside of it. Is that okay?
That is the little ice packs that say recyclable? No.
They say they're recyclable, and I've been dumping the contents out and then putting the plastic into the can, but now it's not a bottle, jug, or carton. So now I have to go back into that can and take it out, because I put it in there yesterday.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it later, but the little triangle, don't believe it. Don't trust the triangle.
That's what I was gonna say.
Bottle stars first. But a lot of times we get questions on what your recycling is becoming. So we already kind of talked about it. Paper and cardboard become other paper and cardboard items. Food and drink cans, we talked about that soda can, back on the shelf in 2 months. Plastic bottle stars and jugs, polyester, recycled plastic. A lot of times backpacks, shirts, sweaters, Patagonia does a really great job of using recycled materials. Comes park benches, something really cool. Yeah.
You said that steel and aluminum are infinitely recyclable, but things like paper, because of the length of the fiber, is not, right? How many times can that be, if you have sort of life cycle and.
It depends on like the thickness of the paper. So, like if paper is recycled once and becomes toilet paper, you can't recycle toilet paper again.
What?
So it depends on like what product it's made of. So like you know what I mean? Like I can't guarantee that this paper will become paper again. So there's no way to track how many times that paper is turned into paper, which I know is frustrating. I'm sorry.
But the public has recycled toilet paper. I just wondered how they did that.
Don't wonder.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Oh, sorry, my question. We talked about China earlier, and why a lot of places, their whole system kind of crashed. We are really lucky here in the Southeast. We have a very, very robust recycling system. All of Nashville's recycling stays in the Southeast, either in Tennessee, some go to Atlanta. but it's all here in the southeast. Recycling is really great for our southern economy. Super, super strong here, super robust. We're very, very fortunate. These are all the different, so blue is aluminum, orange is aluminum and steel, pink is glass, light blue is paper, green is plastics, and yellow is steel. Those are all the different manufacturers we have here in the southeast. Another barrier to recycling is the manufacturers. So getting them to use recycled products, for example, or getting them to use material that can be recycled are two really big issues. So material isn't used for new products or it can't be recycled in a high quality. So like we just said, plastic isn't infinitely recyclable. It can be recycled, I'd be comfortable saying 5, more comfortable saying 2 or 3 times. So not a great solution. It won't be recycled again and again. It will end up in the trash eventually.
So aluminum foil, we can't recycle that?
So a lot of people think you can crush aluminum foil into a ball. It's not being processed here. It's not recyclable. Those air currents won't get it. The magnet won't get it. There's not enough high enough quality of that metal in aluminum foil. The buried containers we talked about earlier, same number as plastic bottles, very different machinery to sort it. That optical sorter won't be able to identify that, won't be able to get it moving on the line the way it needs to, so we can't recycle it here in Nashville. It is recyclable in other parts of the country. Davidson County, the southeast, we can't do it.
I have a girlfriend that pays to ship off her other numbers, but I'm like, the carbon emissions in the process,
Yes.
like.
Yeah.
Reduce, reuse, repair. Managing that upstream is so much better than managing it downstream.
So if you have a choice to buy a drink in an aluminum can or a bottle, you would choose an aluminum can?
Every time I would choose
Every time.
Unlearn these numbers. The way that the numbers work are they are required by the American Chemical Society to identify which kind of plastic, which kind of polymer that material is made of. It was never supposed to be for the consumers. It was advertised to be for the consumers. It was advertised to be look, it's already printed for you. This is a plastic item. It is not a symbol of recyclability. It's a symbol of what the material is made of. Because like we just talked about, recycling is regional. So it's really hard for a world international corporation to say, yep, your small town can recycle it. They can't do that. They don't know what material is there to store it. They don't know what infrastructure is there. Don't trust these numbers. My clicker died.
But if you do, it looks like you can only do 1 and 2.
Don't even plastic cups. Buried containers, those are ones. Bottles, jars, and jugs. Things with a tapered neck, the neck is smaller than that base, things with a cap. Those are the 2 things.
Aren't some of the, like those pill bottles, there's a lot of little bottles that are 4s and 5s, so you can't put them in either.
Prescription bottles. So this is the keeping it simple. This is the easy, looking at your milk jug, you can recycle it. Pill bottles, super small. They don't have that tapered neck. They are not recyclable. That is the one exception to the jar rule. Prescription bottles. They can, however, be reused by your vets. Lots of veterinary clinics will take them for your little pets for their pills. Turnip Green here in Nashville will also take them for art. So there are ways to reuse them, which is a much better practice than recycling them. But yes, those little orange prescription bottles are not recyclable.
But the ones that are white and they're bigger and they have they are.
Yes.
Okay.
Even if they have a 4 or a 5 on it?
Don't look at the numbers. So other recycling options here in Nashville, we talked about convenience centers a few times. Mattresses, you can recycle them. We have spring rack recycling here in Nashville. They will take your mattress. You can go to any convenience center. There are 4 of them here in Nashville. They will take your mattress. They will take your box spring. Both of those will be recycled and kept out of the landfill. Tires, car tires, not bike tires. Very sorry. Car tires can be recycled. Electronics, so your computer, your phone you update every 2 years, can be recycled. You probably should be updating it every 2 years. but you can take it. Small amounts of carpet, scrap metal, household hazardous waste. We talked about things like pesticides. Those can be taken to the convenience center. Food waste. So earlier, recycling and composting were on the same line. Composting is a form of recycling. So you can divert that from landfills through composting. These two down here, we put them on because they are systems that exist. So plastic bag drop-offs, you can go to plasticfilmrecycling.org. It'll tell you ones near you that identify as plastic film recyclers. We cannot tell you how that process works. We recommend reducing and don't buy that plastic film, don't get that plastic bag. If you have it, these are people who say they will recycle them. Styrofoam drop-offs also exist. Styrofoam is terrible. It is the one material that will never, ever biodegrade, ever. Biodegrading is different than composting, by the way. Everything will biodegrade besides styrofoam. There is no regulation behind biodegradable, the time it takes to biodegrade. So saying glass can biodegrade a couple hundred years, but it'll biodegrade. So if you're trying to compost, look for compostable, don't fall for biodegradable. But styrofoam is the one product that will never biodegrade, it will never ever break down. There is some chemical recycling that can happen with styrofoam. Don't buy it, please. Don't buy it, don't use it, it's bad.
What can, glass can biodegrade? What does it degrade to?
Biodegrading just means breaking down. So glass can break down into sand.
But it means degrading with, like, biologically. But it doesn't, okay.
In a couple hundred years, yeah. But
It's just sand.
yes, there's no regulation behind the word biodegradable or putting it on your biodegradable flushable wipes, for example. They will break down. They will not break down within you, your children, or your grandchildren's lifetime, but they will biodegrade at some point in time. So don't fall for biodegradable, don't fall for the numbers. These are issues with our materials management much higher up.
Best Buy will take electronics.
Yep.
They will recycle electronics, receivers, things like that.
Yeah, same with our convenience centers, we work with local manufacturers, we'll get it recycled. Everything that we say we take, we know can be recycled, we check in often, it is being recycled. A lot of questions today. We do have the Nashville Waste and Recycling app. It is online at recycle.nashville.gov or in your app store. So this app has something called the Waste Wizard, where you can type in things like prescription bottle, and it'll tell you you can't recycle it, but here are places we know that will take it. Plastic jar, for example, will tell you, yep, you can put that in curbside recycling. Styrofoam, it'll tell you trash. Here's some this is the styrofoam film drop-off we know about. We don't recommend getting styrofoam ever, but if you do get it, there is a possibility something will be done with it. Also on the app and on the online version, we have the Get Ready Recycle sorting game. So this is brand new, super exciting, but it has that convenience center, the recycling, the compost drop-off, which is at a convenience center, recycling drop-off, and landfill. So you can quiz yourself. So things like paper coffee cup. You cannot recycle it because it's dirty. It's not your magazine, it's not your paper like that. You can compost it. But clean, empty, dry. Paper coffee cups, if they're used, they're not clean. You can't get that material out of there. So that'll go in the trash. So it's a fun way to kind of learn what programs we offer here in Nashville. You're looking for something to do at work. Someone today brought a bag of materials they want sorted. So I will do that, but if y'all have any other questions, also happy to answer those because I understand recycling is very confusing.
Can you speak to extended producer responsibility legislation?
Yeah, so Maine and Oregon, I think those are the only two right now. I know Colorado's pursuing it, not sure where it is. But EPR, or extended producer responsibility, are programs that require manufacturers to take their goods back. So that happens with paint a lot of time, for example. So paint is a hazardous material, especially oil and latex-based paint. So there are laws that require the manufacturers to take that back because nothing can be done with them. So extended producer responsibility is a law that's saying if you're producing this item and you know that we can't manage it, you have to take it back. So it's paying for that process to happen and kind of moving it back upstream instead of forcing it on local governments and local communities to kind of deal with all the waste that billionaires are creating. A lot of times that can be in the form of a bottle bill. So if you live in like Iowa, Hawaii, New York, Michigan, if you ever see a little can that has like M-E-H-I-M-Y on it, that's because in those states they have bottle bills or bottle deposit bills where if you bring it back, they'll give you like a nickel as part of their take back or extended producer responsibility. A bottle bill appears in Tennessee legislature almost every year. It is shut down every single time. We understand it would be great. It is awesome. I lived on the border of New York and Pennsylvania. Every Saturday we went to New York to recycle our plastic bottles, our glass bottles, our metal cans. It was awesome. It is not up to your local government to decide that. They will not stamp Nashville on the can. They will stamp Tennessee. So a lot of that is pushing your state legislators to kind of handle that. It would be awesome. It is not up to your local government. I'm very sorry. But that is what extended producer responsibility and bottle bills are. Yeah.
Two quick questions.
For sure.
Bottled beer or beer in aluminum cans?
Those glass bottles?
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah, glass bottles.
I would say aluminum because it's more accessible. So there
To
are.
recycle.
Yes.
Okay.
They're not as best.
Second question is that, your orange juice jug, nice sturdy, clear plastic jug, and then the containers that the spinach might come in or the strawberries. It kind of looks and feels the same, it's got the same number on it, all that sort of stuff. Is it true that some of those might be made out of the exact same materials, but it's like the machines can't process it? Is that like the optical
So they're
sorter?
both number ones, but they're sorted differently. They're also a different thickness. So when they're pelletized, when those are recycled, some of them will become pellets, like the plastic bottles will become pellets. The thin plastic will become fibers. So the way that it's broken down is different as well, which is why people who take the pellets don't want the fibers, which is why we can't lump them together. So it can't be sorted the same way and it can't be sold the same way, which are the two things that determine recyclability, or can it be sorted and can it be sold. Okay, should I pull from the magic bag?
Yeah.
What do we have together, man?
That's a jar.
Someone said
Yes.
yes. So it tapers. It's got that. Y'all can go outside into the lobby and recycle this. Tetra Pak. So this comes in like the HelloFresh or the Every Plate. This is fine. This is a paper carton. We have talked to paper mills. They tell us they are okay to take Tetra Pak.
Does it have to be rinsed first?
You should rinse it, yeah. I can feel liquid in this. I don't know if y'all can hear it. The cap is also okay on because when they sort it, the paper will get mulchy, kind of, and it'll be separated. It'll be screened out in the process. But yes, we have talked to multiple paper mills on different virtual calls and different tours, and they all tell us they can take Tetra Pak. So as far as we know, they're telling us they can take it, they're telling us they can sell it. So we are telling y'all, you can take it, you can sell it. What is she? Tetra Paks.
That's like almond milk and all that kind
So it'll say it's called Tetra Pak on the bottom, but it's like that, it's like what you buy soup or vegetable broth in. It's like that kind of waxy carton feel that has a plastic cap. Just called Tetra Pak.
And we can leave the cap on.
Yep, you can leave that cap on.
And I can guarantee you that the wine that came in that is acceptable and not very expensive.
I honestly did not even notice it was wine this whole time. I was like, this is just some soup, but yes. Okay.
No.
Not a bottle jar.
No, but you can bring it to Jackalope and they'll recycle.
I hate those. Why did they put this on aluminum cans? It's ridiculous.
They put those
better.
on to keep the lids clean.
Actually, it's better than the loop ones though, because it doesn't hurt the
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
then put the stuff in.
I got those.
and those are recyclable, you can take them back to Jackalope all day long.
But not in your curbside.
Only when they're open.
Yeah.
To jar.
Was that, what about the,
So we would call it a bottle, the tapered neck. This is not. This is not a cap. So if you're just looking at like this, you could put a cap on this. This is a plastic bottle. These, no. Same with like Windex, the sprayer thingy, no. But the bottle itself is okay.
As long as it's clean.
Yeah, so give it a good rinse. It's probably soap with some, yeah, lotion, shake it up. Doesn't have to be pristine, but rinsed, it's good. Ready to talk about the little pill?
No.
Yeah. What is it?
Please, no. This damages the equipment every single time.
I'm sorry, why was the vitamin container no? It's the bottle with the tapered neck.
So
It's
five.
bigger, isn't it?
Yeah, this is okay. This
Oh,
is the jar.
okay.
Yeah, this is a jar. Sorry, I thought someone said yes, but this is a jar.
Then why'd you get it at the drugstore?
Hard pill bottle.
So like the orange prescription bottles, no.
No, okay.
This tapered neck, screw on top,
Yeah,
yes.
okay,
But like the straight cylinder ones, no.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you for doing that. So regarding the plan producer responsibility, the chapter of solid waste